So, on today's show, we had Arnie McClure, who is an architect who has a tendency to be more on the variety side. How would you describe that?
Yeah, I mean, you can be a specialist in one niche, one thing. We say niche versus niche, but because we're from the South. But you can be a
Note.
specialist in like one niche, or you can be a variety. Like you can do a variety of work. I tend to be that same way where we do a variety of work. One day maybe a gas station, another day a house, or another
Mm.
day a medical office building. So or like a retail building. So each one has its nuances, and we learn about some of those nuances with Arnie. Um, so that was one of the interesting aspects of it. Should you be a generalist or a specialist? Which he's lived his career as more of a generalist, and he's been successful with that.
Okay. Sounds like a good episode. Was there anything else that you thought highlighted in that one?
Well, one thing about it was Arnie and I, we don't do a ton of work currently together, um, but we do have a connection that is going to be highlighted toward the end of the episode. So you have to listen to the whole thing. And also the way that we're connected, it's not through work, but the way that we're connected, we tie that into architecture and design. So I thought that was an interesting connection, and I wanted to share about that. But I wanted to maybe give it a morsel, and they can find out more about that in the episode.
All right, well, let's jump to the intro.
Hey everybody, my name is Andy Richardson. I'm a structural engineer. I've been doing this 27 years. This is my producer, Madeline, and she has been helping us out. We've hit our first year. This is the Enhanced Podcast. Thank you for joining today, where we interview architects, engineers, and contractors and find out their story. Let's jump to the episode.
Welcome to Enhance, an AEC podcast where we learn the why behind AEC professionals so that you can learn your why.
Well, welcome to the Enhanced Podcast, Arnie, and thanks for coming in today. So you said you listened to a few episodes, so I like to open this up with something like a curveball, which
I did notice that.
So hopefully you're ready. But the curveball for you today is if you could design an iconic building in the Low Country, be it Charleston or Beaufort, South Carolina, what would it be? So like an iconic structure, iconic building.
That is a curveball. Iconic building. I think in Beaufort, there's such a unique history here, and I've learned more. I grew up around here, but I've learned more about particularly the Civil War and Reconstruction era history. And we now have a national park here, this Reconstruction era, and we have Penn Center, which is a wonderful kind of collection of history and got a lot of really unique history about the Reconstruction era. I think it'd be kind of fun to, if Beaufort ever could engage enough and have enough funding to do a Reconstruction era museum that really focused on Robert Smalls and some of the things that happened that I didn't learn in school growing up because it was not a part of the history books. Then it was kind of a unwritten history. So that could be a kind of cool project. I don't know where we'd put it.
Harriet Tubman.
Harriet Tubman included in that and the history there. I think that would be really fascinating. I have yet to get to visit the International African American Museum, and I think they have some of that history built into that. It's on my bucket list to get to.
That's here
in Charleston.
That's in Charleston. Okay.
New museum just opened this past year.
Okay.
So I'm definitely going to try to do that. Kind of interesting, very contemporary architecture there on the waterfront. Right where the slaves were brought in. So it's kind of a cool little bit of a hallowed ground there. Of course, we have a few monuments. We got the Harriet Tubman Monument that's just been placed here in Beaufort. So that could be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I don't know. I'll probably think of something better later. So we'll come back to it if I do.
Well, again, that's why they call it a curveball, I guess, but opens up.
And I would say the reason I did that is because I really enjoy working in the public realm. Our office that I'm with is focused for 23 years, I think, on primarily public sector and commercial work. We don't do a whole lot of residential. But to me, the public sector and you talk about iconic buildings, city halls, police stations, community centers. Those are things to me that sort of make a community. And so being able to do things that enhance your community is kind of a big part of what we do, or hopefully what we do. So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what is so interesting about being an architect, I think, right? I mean, you get to have a big impact on that.
Yeah.
And those various types of building. What is one of the more common types of buildings? I mean, that's one of the things about your company, Coast Architects, right? I mean, and what you do, but you have a diversity of what you work on, right?
So multiple times people have asked me over our career at Coast, since we started Coast, oh, what do you specialize in? And my standard answer is anything we can get. But I do think variety for us is what our real strength is. We do some medical work, we do retail, we've done things as small as ATM enclosures to 200,000 square foot warehouse buildings. So big to small, community centers, senior centers, college and university work, gas stations, car washes. We do a little, and they all have their different unique challenges. And I think because we don't specialize in just church work or just office buildings, that brings a little more curiosity to it. Like somebody that does the same thing over and over, at some point they sort of get a formula. And I think that sort of the thing about us is we approach each project uniquely. It's every project is unique, every owner's needs are unique. And so I think that actually, it gives us a better vantage point in some ways. Now, sometimes there's a learning curve, when you're working with something you never worked with before, I mean, chiropractor versus a veterinarian, you've got to know what they do, what kind of equipment they deal with and all. So sometimes there's a learning curve, but usually we can figure it out and get a good answer, a good solution for them. So.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard that advantage. Like, okay, you can bring, it's almost like you can almost bring some of the lessons learned from, for example, the medical and bring it into a gas station.
Right. Essentially, yeah.
Have you ever
say it's because you've got that kind of, you're like, oh, when we were doing this clinic, we did this, this, and this. Well, we could do that here too, or something. So sometimes that happens. And, I just enjoy the variety. I don't feel like I get stuck with, doing the same thing over and over again. So that's.
Do you find that for your team that is what they want, is variety, or do you feel like they would just rather work on, hey, I'm the gas station guy?
I think definitely the people that are with me now, they may dispute this, but I think they would say that they've bought into that philosophy too, and like I said, we pursue a lot of different types of jobs, and I think everybody's pretty much on board with that. And like kind of like the challenge when you've got something maybe you're not as used to doing, and you get a little bit out of your comfort zone.
Yeah,
I think it enlivens your job. And my other philosophy has always been do what you love, and I love about 90-something% of what I do. There's always that little bit. I'm sure you feel that way too. So
yeah. What's the part that you enjoy the most about your daily routine?
For me, design is absolutely the thing that drives me. Problem solving. I listened to a little bit of your podcast with Joel Newman.
Yeah.
And Joel and I have a history because he was my grad assistant when I was at Clemson and a freshman, So it's kind of fun to hear him. I don't see him that often around town here. He's another architect here in town. And so, yeah, I would say problem solving, meeting with clients. Architecture is a big people business. It's really developing relationships, understanding your clients' needs, and then trying to find solutions for them. So that's coming up with the big idea. The creativity part for me. I'm definitely a creative. If you have to put me in a category,
right?
I'm definitely in the creative side.
I mean, you want your architect to be creative, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's how you solve problems, And And there are definitely different kinds of architects. You know, we often talk when I first meet with a client. I sort of categorize architects into two different types. There's the prima donna architect who says, "This is my building, and we're going to do this my way." And there are clients that want that. They want somebody to tell them, and they want it to look like, you know, architect XYZ's building. They like that. You know, every building has a specific look, and you're going to follow. And then there are architects that are like, "This is your building, and we're here to help you solve your problems and give you your building." And that's kind of where we thrive. That's where we work, is you know, trying to understand each project's unique, has a unique set of needs, unique budget, usually never enough money in the budget, but that's part of the job. You got to figure out how to solve the problem and meet the budget too. That's a piece of it. So
Well, and also you're dealing with this diversity of your portfolio, where the budget, all these different factors that you're talking about are different.
Yeah.
I mean, and I say that because I come at it from a similar angle. A lot of the architects we work with have a diversity,
right,
and so therefore we have to have that same diversity.
Right.
But what I've found is the preferences are different when you go across these different types of work, and the clientele is different.
Right.
Plus, within that vertical,
right.
it's a very different type.
Well, even with you as structural, you know, I think you mentioned you've done some hotel work, and we don't do a lot of that. We work with more boutique type hotels, the ones that we've dealt with. But if you were out there doing, you know, sort of the standard hotel, you know, there's a structural system that's been sort of perfected with that. You know, you've got a 9-foot floor to floor height with a 6-inch slab and load bearing wall. You know, this sort of, so sometimes you do have things where the formula, you don't need to reinvent it. It's you know, kind of common sense, and we even see that. You know, we're doing a couple of fire stations, and in some ways the structure is very similar on those. You know, it's a really big. It's a house with a really big garage. That's what I tell people a lot of times.
Right.
So you'll see some things that you know, certain details and certain things that you do in one building. If it works, you're going to use it again somewhere, maybe in a different, gets regurgitated and put out in a slightly different way. But so yeah, it's.
Now, back to your daily routine, or you know, the things you said 90%.
Yeah.
Is there some things that you don't love as much about your job?
Because that's funny. One of the other ones I listen to is Esther,
Okay.
your wife, Esther, who deals some on the business side, and getting paid is always a pain in the butt to have to chase money. Luckily, we have really great clients, and I don't have to very often, but sometimes it's like, okay, you know, we can't keep working. I got to pay my people. So I'd say, you know, that side of it for me. And then probably spec writing, you know, that kind of, it's almost tedious, less creative side of the technical things. Sometimes I dread checking drawings, you know, doing quality control, but then I realize that it's best for me to do it because I know what I'm looking for, you know, versus, you know, I've been in some firms where they hire, larger firms will have a quality control person who reviews all the drawings, but if they weren't the designer, they don't really know what you were trying to get out of it. So I feel like that's really, the QC part is so important for getting what you really want when you get down to it, and for not having problems during construction, and at least less problems during construction.
Yeah. Do you want to do it now, or do you wait until later and then have the issues pop up on you? So yeah.
Yeah. So I would say those kind of tedious kind of tasks, you know, forms, paperwork, those kinds of things are a real drag, but they're a very small part of the process of everything we do. So
yeah. But some of that you can delegate out.
Right? Yeah, well, I'm lucky. My partner loves to do the books and the business side of it, you know.
Yeah.
So I get to do the creative stuff, and she does it too. She's also very into interiors, so her creativity goes more towards the interior side on some stuff, and so we make a good kind of fit because she likes doing certain things and I like doing others. So that's been a good 23-year relationship there. So
yeah. Now, let's talk about that a little bit as far as your partnership with Connie.
Yeah.
And how do you say her last name, by the way?
Sephiris.
Sephiris.
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as that relationship and how was that? How did you start the company? I guess a little bit of background
Well, it's
there.
funny. So Connie and I started in the profession in 1988, came straight out of Clemson, went to undergraduate and graduate school at Clemson, um, and went to work for Jeffrey Rosenblum in Charleston. Really wanted to be in Beaufort even then, but there just weren't that many jobs in Beaufort back then, and loved being in Charleston, and it was a great, raised a family there, and great experience. But Connie, I think started, she can correct me on this, but I think within a month or two before I started there, she had just started working for Jeffrey as well.
Okay.
So we interned at the same time in a small firm and got to know each other. And I guess about 3 years there, I thought I knew everything and was ready to go out on my own. So I left and, tried to do it on my own, did that for a couple of years. And right after that, she left and went to Thomas Denzinger, the Charleston office.
Okay. Yeah.
They have
Well, they had two
two,
there, right?
well, they ultimately had two offices even there, but so she was working with Herman
Okay.
Denzinger there and did that for 5 or 6 years at least. And then I had by that time gone to become a partner in another firm. SGM was the firm. And just one day I said, "Hey, we're looking for somebody." And she's like, "Oh, I'd love to jump on." And so she actually came in and was a part. She and I were partners in a larger firm,
Okay.
about a 30-person firm. And then 7 or so years after that, we just one day said, this is great, but we want to do something a little less stressful. We want to have a little better time. And we left that firm and started Coast. So 2003.
Yeah.
We started Coast.
Now,
So,
do you find it to be less stressful, or?
well, like in 2008, 2009, it was very stressful. But yeah, generally, I think, because we've kept it small, that was one of our goals. We didn't want to grow to 30 or 40 people. We had done that in the other firm, and we decided that just wasn't us. We wanted to stay. Her in particular, she had gotten to where she was doing HR all the time, and wasn't doing design work and wasn't involved in projects. And we both said, we always want to be project architects. We always want to be hands-on with the projects. Now we have other people that work with us, but we don't want to just be management. And it's real easy for that to happen when you start growing your firm. And so that's been a conscious choice on our part to stay small.
Yeah.
Which is easier than it sounds.
Right.
Because, but we've been blessed with good, solid work, and have been busier than ever these last few years. We've been high and low. We started in 2003, 2008. We were so busy we couldn't see what was coming at us until the work literally fell off the cliff. It was a tough time. Phone calls. It felt like every day somebody was calling and canceling a project, and tough time to get through that, and many years to recover from that. So
Yeah.
So anytime we get really, really busy, I feel like, is this deja vu? Is this, is there another cliff ahead of us? But you got to work while the work's there, and hope it keeps up. So.
What do you tell, and probably most importantly for you, your team, in terms of how to go through one of those scenarios, and B, for the audience, of course, how to go through one of those scenarios where the economy.
Hold on. Be prepared. I think you have to be cognizant. We have always strived to keep our overhead low, so that if we have to be lean, we can be lean. Even to the point that as partners, we, try to keep our salary within reason, that we know that's a fixed salary. If we can take, an owner's draw to make up that difference later, we'll do that. So that we've kind of lived lean. We ended up, Connie and I own the building that we're in, and, have tried to keep our overhead costs there low. So you're prepared there. We try not to there are certain firms that at least they used to have a reputation of being hire and fire. You know, if you're busy, you just hire, and you know, if things fall off, you can just let them go. And we just have tried not to be that way. You know, we again very cautious about hiring, um, and you know, a lot of it's your gut. You know, what's going to happen next, and it's hard to see the future. Hard to
Right.
know. So,
I mean, those are some good tips as far as just how to weather the storm.
yeah. I mean, when for us, the experience we went through, we had 8 employees at the time, which is the biggest we had ever gotten, and they were, you know, it sounds corny to say, but they were like family, and we saw the train wreck coming, and we're like, we're going to have to do something. And as hard as it was, we let 3 people go, and they were great people. We're still good friends with them, and you know, they luckily found, because we let them go relatively early, they were actually able to find other jobs before everything fell apart. And so they were able to, which I'm grateful, they were able to find jobs and make it through. You know, talking to other people, a lot of people said, well, this is going to be a 6-month recession. We're going to hold on to our people. And they burned through their cash reserves, and the recession wasn't over in 6 months. And then they had to let people go. And then those people were out when there were no jobs left, you know. So in some ways, as hard as it was, doing it earlier was better for the people we had to lose, and better for us financially, because we were able to conserve some funds to, you know, to keep the firm open. We all had to take some pay cuts. We worked a few less hours. You know, it's I go back to when I was really young, getting a profession. I had an uncle in Savannah that was an architect, and he told me, he goes, you know, you have to make hay while you can, because you know, it's either bust or boom. You know, you're going to be working like you just don't know what to do, or then turns right around and can drop out from under you. So luckily we haven't had too many of the busts, but that was one that I think all of us who were around in the business at that time will never forget.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you got through 2008, 2009, and then things seemed to come around with the economy. What was and you stayed with your partner?
Yeah, we
for
survived.
What was
we survived.
What was the secret to keeping a strong partnership at Coast?
I think the great thing, I don't know if Connie's going to listen to this. I have to be careful what I say, but the great thing
It's on
is
YouTube.
that, that I didn't tell her I was doing this, that we both keep communication open. And I've seen partnerships where the partners just don't talk, you know? And I think if something's bugging one of us, we know we can go to the other one. And we have a level of trust with each other that, you know, we're not out to hurt each other. We're out to help each other. And we just had enough time together to know our strengths. And so that's been a good thing, I think. So that's really just talking, you know.
Yeah. Which you have no problem doing, right?
Apparently not. I've probably talked way too much already.
No, I appreciate it. No, it's great. Now, I want to mention, or I want to go into the uncle that you brought up in Savannah. Is that what brought you into architecture?
I figured you would get to that. My answer to how I got into architecture was when I was a kid, I was obsessed. This is really corny sounding, but I was obsessed with building tree houses. You know, at like 10, 11, 12 years old, I started, you know, finding scrap wood and nailing it to poor trees, all in my mom's backyard. So I think I kind of jokingly say that, and so what would happen was I would build this tree house, you know, and I would get it done, and then I would go sit in it, and I would get bored and go, okay, I got to add on to the tree house. You know, it was like this obsession with the constantly, and it was the creativity piece. I didn't know that's what it was, but it was just that need to create and to keep doing it. You know, I was never satisfied. And so I had a little bit of that. And then my dad, it was actually my dad's first cousin, and they had grown up together in a small town. And he ended up being in a partnership actually in Hilton Head. He was one of the first architects on Hilton Head. and they ended up he and his partner ended up opening the Savannah office, and then they had a split, and he ended up taking the Savannah side of the business. And,
Okay. Who was the architect again?
Tommy Smith.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sorry, Tommy Stanley. Tommy Smith was my old partner at SGM. Tommy Stanley in Savannah, and so when I got a little bit older, he encouraged my dad to encourage me a little bit, and so one year I got a drafting table for Christmas, and I thought that was with a parallel bar, and I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And then I think the next year I had seen a copy of Architectural Graphic Standards, and nobody probably knows what that is now, but that was like the Bible of architectural details. I don't know if you have that book or not, but
I think I got one up there. Yeah.
yeah, there it is, the red one. Yeah, you got it. And I got that for Christmas, and man,
Oh, wow.
I poured over that book as a teenager, looking at it all, and so that was just kind of it. I mean, somebody said, when did you decide you want to be an architect? And I was like, well, I don't know. I just think I always knew I wanted to be one. So I was lucky in that.
And so you went straight in at
So I went.
school?
So my dad went to Clemson. So Clemson's the only architecture school in the state. I didn't think about going. Nowadays my kids all apply to like 10 colleges and go through all this stuff. I mean, I applied to one college and luckily got in, and was a great undergraduate experience there. And of course, at that time, Clemson was transitioning the 4 years of undergraduate and 2 years of graduate. Most schools now kind of operate in that model.
Mm-hmm.
And so it came time to go to graduate school, and I'm like, well, I don't want to, I've sort of been exposed to the world. There are other schools. I want to go somewhere exotic. And so applied a couple of other places, but essentially Clemson was such a deal. They offered me financially such a deal. And they had a program in Genoa, Italy, which is an excellent program that nobody else had anything compared to it at the time. And so I didn't really have a choice. I had to stay at Clemson. And at the time I thought, this is terrible because I'm getting 2 degrees from the same place. And after the first job, that's my other word of advice for anybody out there that's, thinking about going to school. A good school is important, but after that first job, it doesn't really matter where your diploma is from. So, don't let that scare you off. And so the graduate school was a great experience at Clemson too. So,
well, with architecture, you have to get the master's if you want to get the registered
you pretty much have to.
in the U.S.
I think there's still a few 5-year programs around, but I think now it's a total of 8 years between your internships and schools. So you got to do it one way or the other. I think some states still accept the 5 to 3. I haven't seen if that's been completely phased out or not, but most, as far as I know, most schools now are doing the 4-2.
Yeah.
Program.
So yeah, it sounds like you really had your course planned out from day one.
Yeah. Luckily, it's worked out. I've survived and made a living.
Yeah.
Maybe not gotten rich, but I made a good living. So.
And then your background, you're from small town, South Carolina.
Yeah.
What town is that?
Varnville.
Varnville, the big town of Varnville.
Varnville in Hampton County. I tell everybody it is in the middle of nowhere, but the center of everything. Because if you were to draw a box between Savannah, Augusta, Columbia, and Charleston, draw a box, make an X, it's right there. We're
right
sort
there.
of in the middle of nothing, but in the center of everything, or something like that.
Yeah, so it's a good place to grow up.
Small town was a great place to grow up. Less than 2,000 people in the town. You kind of knew everybody. They all knew you. There's good things about that and bad things about that. But so I still have my dad was there till the day he died, and he loved that little town, and so I still have a soft spot there for them. So and we still have some family in the area and go back periodically. It's 45 minutes from Beaufort.
Yeah.
Now I'm living in Beaufort. Was living in Charleston until 3.5 years ago. So
yeah.
We're in the neighborhood. So.
And you work in both towns.
I do. I work a couple of days in the office in Charleston. The pandemic, for better or worse, taught us some new ways to work, and I realized that, hey, I don't have to be in the office. And luckily, my partner and my employees have been generous enough to to let me be out of the office a couple of days a week. So I do some work from home. And we have work in the Beaufort area, and we have work in the Charleston area. We primarily work along the coast, although we've gone as far as Spartanburg and Greenville and Anderson for a few projects here or there. But one of the reasons we named our firm Coast was, we wanted to concentrate in this area, and I didn't want to spend my days driving all over everywhere to get to jobs. So that's worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, what kind of interesting jobs do you have going on right now?
For people in the Beaufort area, we were working on University of South Carolina Beaufort has a campus here in town. And there's a building that was built in the 1960s and then added on to in 76 and added on again in, I think it was 92, I think. We're doing a complete gut and redo of this. It's called the Sandstone Building. It's a academic building with the Media Resource Center and student commons areas and some labs and all that. So that's a really interesting project. Been challenging, budget issues and existing building code issues. One of the things we got into it, and if you re-roof a building now, if you do more than 50% re-roofing, you have to upgrade your roof diaphragm. Well, this building has tectum decking. I don't know if you're familiar with that old, 1960s fiber cement decking that will not provide any kind of diaphragm. So we're basically having to gut the roof structure down to the bar joist and put new metal decking and reinforced walls that we weren't going to have to do. But it's all triggered by codes. Another fun thing we get to deal with is building codes. That probably is. It can be in that 90%, but sometimes it's in that 10% of things you don't like to deal with is the building code, because it can really send you down a rabbit hole sometime. But so that's one. We're doing a pretty exciting project at South Carolina State University, a new student center building there. That we've done some renovations on the existing one, and we're going to be doing an addition onto that building now as a second project there. Just met with a client for a new senior center in St. George. It's going to be a nice sized project. Enjoyed meeting the clients. I'm hoping we're going to have a good project come out of that. So a lot of different nice projects that'll hopefully last a while. We can get through, and then we do a lot of little stuff too. So tinted upfits or like I said, we've done car washes and gas stations. I just did a Dairy Queen in Charleston. I never thought I would do a Dairy Queen, but it required design review. We do a lot of stuff that requires city design reviews, DRBs, and they had to, their prototype wasn't going to fly, so we had to help them develop an envelope on the building that looked like Charleston, looked like it belonged, and everybody was so excited about getting a Dairy Queen in Charleston because we didn't have any Dairy Queens, which is kind of weird for a city that size. And so they were all calling us, going, "When is it going to open? When is it going to open?" Well, it's open now, so you can go get your Blizzard now. So,
okay, nice. We'll have to check it out.
So
like
Beaufort
is a smaller town, and we had a Dairy Queen.
You got a Dairy Queen. Charleston has none. They're going to be building some more, I think.
So glad you got Charleston a Dairy Queen.
Yeah, that's my claim to fame.
Is that your feather in your cap?
And I didn't even get a free Frosty or a Blizzard out of it. I said the wrong thing. Now I'm really going to be in trouble. So. But
would you say that's is there a feather in your cap that you really like to point to and you say, that was one that I really enjoyed over the years?
I think one of the top projects for us was fairly early in our firm's career. We were awarded the North Charleston Fire Prevention Museum. If you're familiar with Tanger Outlets in North Charleston, it's right next to Tanger Outlets. But it was a very interesting project because at the time, American La France, who had a long history from the 1800s in, I think, Elmira, New York, upstate New York, moved their manufacturing plant to North Charleston. They produced fire engines, fire trucks, fire apparatus. They're now out of business, but at that time, and they had a collection of 16 or 18 antique fire engines going all the way back to a 16-man hand pumper. They had steam engines all in operating order, beautiful pieces of equipment. And part of the deal of getting them to move their facility to North Charleston, the city said they would build them a museum to house those apparatus. But they also, the city wanted to build something that was more than just a museum, but that taught fire prevention. And so it's a really cool, we worked with a really great group out of Dallas that did all of the interactive museum displays, all about fire prevention. There's actually, a setup where there's a house fire that starts on the stove and the smoke comes up and all kinds of things happen and fire alarms go off. And but the idea is, a lot of schools take their kids there for field trips on fire protection and fire prevention. So turned out to be a really great project, and I still get excited just thinking about it. So that was sort of a unique, fun thing to do.
Yeah, it sounds like a real helpful way to just get the kids interested in something that's super important, which is the fire prevention education. I mean, I've taken my kids to some of those too, so it's good to have that. And also, you're preserving the history of these
really cool
aspects. So yeah, it's appreciate you sharing some of those cool projects you guys are working on. What at Coast Architects is going particularly well right now that you would, as far as business or team?
I would say our team, we've got, we just this little over a year ago sort of worked out an agreement with Matt Kennedy and Luke Morris, who have been with us. I think Matt's been with us 12 or 13 years. Don't fact check me on that. I think maybe it's 13 now. Luke's been with us for about 7-ish, I think.
Okay.
And so, one thing when you've got a group like that, you want them to want to be there and you want to keep them, So we, Connie and I are we've got, I think, I heard Joel say he had been in for 40 years. I think I'm at 37 years. So you're starting to look at, how are we going to get out, and, does anybody want to keep this thing going? And so luckily, both of them were very interested in, becoming partners and keeping it going. And so I'm really proud now that we've got a transition plan in place that ultimately they'll take over things and probably kick Connie and I out the back door at some point, which is okay. Hopefully we can get there. I always thought I would keel over at the computer, and I might still, but, I always figured I would never retire. And I think, having grandkids and having them nearby, all of a sudden your perspective changes a little bit. Well, maybe I could finally, I don't ever see myself not working. I'll do something, but, maybe I could start to see some type of retirement in my future. So, so that's out there, not immediate.
Well, maybe they can do some of those 10% things that you don't like as much.
I've already tried dumping it on them, but, they push back. But no, they help me a lot. They're a good team, and we've got, 2 younger interns that are really working well with them. And what I said, getting back to sort of being in the office, some of being out of the office, what I tell people I've noticed a lot is my wife seems a lot happier when I'm in Charleston for a couple of days, and my office staff seems a lot happier when I'm in Beaufort for a couple of days. So it's a win-win for all of them. It's leaving me kind of scratching my head to where I stand in things.
Yeah, does anybody want you around?
Yeah, that's I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do.
But what do you think the secret is? I mean, it's in this day and age, I mean, keeping somebody at your company for 7 years, 13 years plus, not to mention, you've been with your partner for 20-something years. How do you
It might have something to do with that chain and, shackle I have on them. But no, I think, we definitely value family time, and we let our employees know that. When we're small, one of the reasons we wanted to stay small was when we need to be flexible. Somebody needs a little extra time. I've worked in a corporate environment where, everything is down to the 15-minute increment, and you've got to clock out or take time off to go to a doctor's appointment. And that wasn't the environment we wanted. And so I think, trying to realize everybody's got a life outside the office, that the number of hours you work is not critical. Getting the work done is critical, and meeting deadlines. And that may mean, once in a blue moon, you've got to work a few extra hours here or there. But we also don't want you to burn out. We don't want you to sacrifice, your family over a project. It's just not worth it. The project will get there one way or the other. Your family's way more important. So I think if you ask them, they would have that same response to how important that is.
What's your structure? I mean, you have how many architects?
So we have 3 registered architects, and then one other one who, for all practical purposes, has the experience of being registered. And so we're top heavy, because Connie and I are both registered. And a lot of firms, you might find 1 or 2 registered architects, and you can have 15 or 20 people working under them. But there's some pros to that. I mean, because you've got experienced people doing the work, and then we're bringing interns along to get them the experience, and so ultimately they'll work into that position too. You're growing the profession while you're at it.
Yeah.
Your business is a bit of an incubator. You want to train people and make them better for the profession.
Yeah,
it boils down to it. So.
I mean, as far as projects go, so there's different ways to arrange project management. I mean, I would imagine, do you just give it to a project architect and they
so usually, I mean, the way it's kind of just happened is Connie and Matt work a lot together, and Luke and I work a lot together, and then the interns kind of bounce based on where the project is. They'll work more. We may have 2 of them working on a bigger project with the 2 of us, so there's 4 of us working on a project. Or they may split up. So it just really depends. It is project specific, but then that's not a set thing. Matt and I are working on some community centers right now. So we cross over depending on the project and depending on schedules. And so there's some flexibility, but it generally kind of falls into kind of the 2 older partners, because now Connie and Matt and Luke are partners too. But we kind of operate primarily in that structure just because we've gotten used to working. I don't think Matt could stand working with me. I think that's really what it was. But he didn't like me making my schedules, and then and Luke just was too young to complain about it loudly, so he got stuck with me. And I still think that's the toughest thing is scheduling, and knowing how long it's going to take to do the work. But then also we're dealing with multiple projects. You have the same thing. You're working with lots of different architects and multiple projects. And one of the projects to talk about today should be out for bid right now, but it got stopped. It's on hold, checking for funding and maybe scope cuts and all that. So I had that on my schedule, and now it's come off the schedule. I don't know when it's going to go back on. So it can get a little challenging there, and then you're trying to fill in those holes,
Right, you just stopped work. Now what? I got let me switch gears.
Gears, and then at some point that project is going to come back, and you got to go pick it up and go, where did we leave it? So
which I can see the pros and cons of a company where you're small enough that you can be a gazelle. You can shift and adapt. Okay, like, hey, they stopped work. We're going to work on this project over here, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So
I think that's an advantage of being smaller. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to go into the title of the podcast a little bit here, Enhance, and want to just see what your opinion of. I mean, we've hit on it some, in terms of. I think you actually used that word earlier, enhance, how some of the work you do. But what does that word mean to you in terms of the work you do and how you enhance the world around you?
Well, in sort of, again, simplistic terms is just, leave the world a better place. If you can, like I said, sometimes we're doing very utilitarian projects, but if we can do them better than they would have been done if we weren't involved, then you're contributing. We're so lucky to live where we live and work where we live. So if what we do enhances this, then it's all the better. And beauty's in the eye of the beholder. There may be some people that look and go, I don't think that enhances anything at all. But hopefully, we're making the world a better place. So
Yeah, I mean, some projects more than others, right? But
yeah, not every
even
project, uh, I'm doing a project right now. It's under construction, and I probably won't say who it is, but it's. They said, "Oh, we want to do a little metal building warehouse," and
mhm,
we work in different modes. We work sometimes with a contractor who's already involved in the project, more in a design build mode. Sometimes we're the architect and they're bidding the project out, or they have a contractor. This is one that we were working with a contract we, uh, love to work with, and went to meet the client, and I was like, what, what's going in? Oh, it's just a 6,000 square foot metal building. I was like, okay, that's pretty simple. And then when they took us out to some containers they had out back that they were storing whatever was going to go in this warehouse, and I walk in and there's these boxes, and I'm like, what is this? And they're like, oh, it's urine samples. And I was like, well, I have never done, warehouse for urine samples. And then I noticed there's a radioactive, those little signs.
Yeah.
I'm like, so why are you storing? And they do the sampling for places like Savannah River Plant.
Okay.
So if you're working around radiation, and I think they also do some healthcare workers, that are exposed, they periodically take urine samples.
Okay.
Well, they have to keep them for I don't know how many years, 7 or 8 years or something like that. So they got all these urine samples around. So I'm doing a urine sample warehouse right now, and
enhancing the world around us, right?
enhancing the world. Something's got to be done. So yeah, that's not one that's going to go on the front of the website or
Yeah, exactly.
But it is interesting, I mean, so I had to learn a little bit about that. I think that's kind of cool in a way. So
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I mean, we all have our projects that definitely fit that interesting category, right?
Yeah.
Well, is
I
there
did
any?
turn down the strip club one time. I did get an offer to do a strip club, and I was like, I think we can pass on that.
Yeah, I have a couple like that.
Yeah.
I pass on from time to time. But is there anything else that drives you for like your job? It may not even necessarily be the buildings. It might be just the work that you do daily.
There's definitely a drive. I think because I do love what I do, it makes it real easy to get up in the morning and say, let's get to work. So I think, I think that's applicable to any profession, and any person is, you're going to do it for most of your life. So, choose something that you really enjoy doing, because you might as well. No need to be miserable. So,
Yeah, awesome.
yeah, I think I am a bit of a workaholic. My wife tells me that. So
Yeah, but sometimes you do get away from work, right? And
oh yeah,
do you have anything
more,
you like to do?
More and more. Definitely love getting out, huge outdoors. Love to fish. I think you know that. I've talked about getting out and fly fishing. Both here on the coast, and then it's nice. I'm going on a trip next week, going to Houston, so I'm going to go out with a guide and do some fishing while we're down in Galveston. So,
Doing work like a conference?
No. So it's actually a medical checkup going.
Personal
So
thing.
if we're going to Houston, I mean, no offense to anybody that might be in Houston, but been there a couple of times. I want to see something else now, so we're gonna drive on down to Galveston and spend a couple of days after we get through with the visit there. So so it's cool. I'd love to travel more. I hope I get the chance. We finally got one good trip in for the first time. You gotta pay for kids. You gotta get them through school, college, and married. And I've done that with all 3 of my kids. And so now all of a sudden I'm like, besides saving for retirement, I'm like, I want to go see some places. And we just took a trip this past year to Turkey, and it was fabulous, fantastic.
Yeah.
Hiked and biked and swam and kayaked and did all kinds of cool things in Turkey. It was a great trip. So I heard Esther talking about your trip to Banff, and that's on my list. I want to go to Banff, but maybe not in the winter. It sounded really cold.
Yeah, they say it's actually more popular in the summer. Which she wanted to see the snow. But
August here in 100 degrees and 100% humidity, I can hear Canada calling me. So hope to get there sometime.
One day we might have to go back and check it out during the summer.
Yeah.
But there is one other hobby that we share.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I knew you were going to bring it up.
Well, people don't know about this one.
Embarrassing moment here of truth, right?
But what hobby do we share?
So we probably met first, I guess. Did we meet first?
I think we probably met on a,
Well,
I don't know, but yeah,
we'll give
it was
Marcia
early.
a plug. Revolution Ballroom Dancing.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how you guys got started there, but that's where I met Andy and Esther,
Mhm.
probably the first time. And yeah, so I guess right before the pandemic, I had two daughters. They both got married the same summer, which was a financial fiasco. Uh, but I told Marcia this. I said, I grew up Baptist. We didn't dance, and here they were going to have weddings, and I did not know how to dance. And so we actually, before we moved here, took some lessons just to, go, okay,
Mhm.
I'm not just out there swaying back and forth. At least I can do something. And so I'm actually the one that gave Mitzi, my wife, lessons for Valentine's, and I guess that was 2019. And so. So we did start there, and then of course the pandemic hit and everything kind of stopped,
Mhm.
and we ended up moving to Beaufort, and that's how we found Revolution Ballroom here in Beaufort. And it's been a nice thing. It's sort of our date night for us. I don't know if you feel that way, but
Yeah.
it's like something we can do together. And I'm not very good at it, but I'm learning, and
yeah.
I'm using my brain, and I'm moving.
Yeah.
Those are things that are important too. So.
Well, and it's fun. I mean, we get to see friends like you and Mitzi each week. We talk, we hang out, we dance. It's our date night. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that
Yeah.
we enjoy. We've been doing a lot of the Argentine tango recently, but
Yeah.
I think you do once a week or you do both?
We go a couple of nights a week. We've been doing 3, sometimes 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just guess we have a sad life that's all we have to do together. But
Yeah.
we're doing. So if I'm not fishing, I'm
Dancing.
I'm dancing, I guess. Yeah. So yeah.
And what's your favorite dance right now?
Ooh. I like the rumba. That's
Okay.
kind of good, useful dance. I like swing. Both of those. Really, we don't perform. Although I did get wrangled into doing this Lafayette thing they just did, but
Okay.
generally speaking, we're just doing it for social. Being able to dance when we go out somewhere and there's a band. It's nice to be able to get out there and enjoy it. So
Yeah.
those are good. Waltz is pretty nice, but it's not something you can use everywhere.
Right.
So,
Well, maybe at a wedding. Right?
I've learned salsa. I love salsa. Salsa's
Yeah.
a lot of fun. So.
So yeah, I would say you're pretty versatile in your dancing and in your
that's
architecture.
right. Just like
so.
architecture, I don't have any one style.
So if you had to describe your architecture style in a dance, what would it be? That was
a
your
mess,
alternate.
probably.
That's your alternate curveball, right?
Yeah, I don't.
So.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know. Yeah, probably Viennese waltz.
Okay.
Because that thing is just the craziest dance ever. You're just twirling around and can't, catch your breath. So that's how my work feels like sometimes, as you're just going at it so hard. So
nice.
Maybe Viennese waltz. Not one of my favorite dances because I think it's hard.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But work can be hard too. So.
Well, and you have a musical background.
Yeah,
so
luckily I do. Esther and I both are like, we got to count. We got to be on the beat. I think my wife is always, she goes, you don't have to be on the beat. It's okay. I'm like, no, we have to be on the beat.
Yeah. And Esther helps keep me in.
Yeah, she's got that
beat.
Musical background too. Yeah.
So, and I'm like, okay, can you count me in? Because I didn't have any musical background when I started.
Yeah.
And I did have one more question about that, actually. Do you think music has any impact on your, this is not just a funny question, but do you think music has an impact on design or architecture in some way?
Well, if I'd have known you were going to ask me that question, I could have pulled out my thesis from graduate school, but that was actually kind of the thing I did, and I had thought about it a long time, but 30-something years ago, was talking about the influence of that music can have on architecture and the commonalities. And rhythm is like an obvious, music has a certain rhythm and a certain pattern, and architecture is the same way, whether it's columns or windows or, buildings have a lot of those same, features. They have harmony, cohesiveness, like I said, rhythms, patterns, all those things they kind of cross over. You know, and in the kind of world of academia, you can take that a little bit further. In real life, I don't think, you know, that, okay, I'm going to listen to, you know, Lady Gaga sing the same song over and over, and there's a building is going to come out of that.
Right.
But I think there are some, you know, influences
Yeah.
that, you know, obviously can translate between the two. So
I mean, that's interesting to think
Yeah.
about. Yeah, I've heard that parallel, and then you know, like I'm looking here at these balusters. I mean,
Right.
there's a rhythm to
Right.
that. You know.
Right.
I mean, I can see that.
You know, and there's bright, happy songs, and there's dark, you know, ominous songs, and
Yeah.
same thing. Buildings can express those kinds of things too. So yeah, I definitely think there's some relationship there.
Very cool. Well,
Yeah.
that's a fun way to sort of bring it to a close.
Yeah.
Was there anything that I didn't touch on today that you think?
I think we've covered the gamut.
The gamut,
So we've
okay.
probably bored your listeners to death, and but hey,
Well, maybe
we're-
we'll put a B-roll
Yeah.
of you doing the Viennese in here.
oh my goodness, don't even let Marcia know about it, or she'll send it to you. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's some blackmail video out there probably of me dancing.
So we'll put the website up for you. Is there any other way to reach?
You know, we have Instagram,
Okay.
Facebook, so I get my guys to shoot you links on those, and we'll do the same thing. We'll,
Okay. Yeah.
you know, feature the podcast and
Awesome. Yeah, you got your
confirm and
social
all,
media
so.
team put on it.
Yeah. One of the younger, you know, one of the interns is better at it than me. We kept saying, "Oh, we're going to post every week," you know, and then you would get busy. I mean, you were talking about that with, you know, some of your stuff. You get these good ideas, but you get busy and you don't get all those posts done that you think you're going to do and all. So yeah. I'll share that info with you, and we'll do the same thing. We'll try to shoot it out on our side too. Get a little exposure. Never hurts. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Arnie.
Great. Thank you. Good to talk again. So.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to today's